Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Ranger's Respite. Today is a whiskey library review, number 6, in fact, and it is of something relatively interesting. That is uh, one of the Elijah Craig single barrels. This is a VA ABC private barrel. Well, let me just see if it will focus on the label. Come on. It won't. That's okay. It's a 10-year-old private barrel selected by Virginia ABC, which is interesting. It's barrel proof. The specific proof on this is 123.3. Um, Virginia ABC is like many other liquor retailers, prone to doing barrel picks with the major brands, Elijah Craig. They've done a couple with like Old Forester, Woodford Reserve, that sort of thing, and they're generally pretty good because as a state level or Commonwealth level agency, they have access to a lot of talented people who are very good at picking these. I will say, for the record, I wish that they'd focus more on Virginia distilleries, and I've picked this bone with them. I've had this bone to pick with them for quite some time, and I've commented on like their Instagram and whatnot about it before. Um, Usually to no response because I'm too small for them to care about. But I think that you all should also not harass them, but poke them on Instagram and Twitter and whatever about hey, as an agency in the Commonwealth of Virginia, you should focus more on Commonwealth distilleries like KO Distilling, Virginia Distillery Company, uh, Ironclad, Reservoir. Um, there are like 50 whiskey producing distilleries in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and I'm getting off track. Let me get back on track. I'm talking about bourbon, specifically an Elijah Craig barrel pick. And I've kind of asked before who is involved in these, and I got kind of an interesting quasi answer once. I asked a store manager one time while I was in the store if they had any say in barrel picks, and he said, "Oh yeah, sometimes it depends on time of year and when they're doing it, but sometimes store managers or particularly knowledgeable people in the agency get picked, and it's sometimes a different group. Sometimes it's the same group of like people who work for VA ABC who get picked to go and be involved in these barrel selection processes, and I find that interesting. Oh, anyway, this is very definitely Elijah Craig. There's a dusty, not quite musty note that I always get on Elijah Craig products, even the like regular small batch stuff. It's sawdust, just like a layer of dust on like a piece of old furniture, a little bit of varnish, a little bit of like butterscotch caramel, uh, praline pecan, a little bit of baking spice. Honestly, not terribly complex nose. You know how there are sometimes just whiskeys that can be really readily defined as, yeah, this is X, Y, or Z type of whiskey or spirit. This is definitely one of them. Just my personal opinion. You don't have to agree with me. On the palate, remarkably easygoing. A little bit of, drying sensation, but, for 123 proof, it's not bad. Not super memorable. Sawdust. Um, a little bit of like butterscotch caramel. Just a touch of baking spice. A little bit, just a touch of like a floral note. Finish short, bittersweet. Again, this is like super heavy on the oak profile all the way through. Not an aggressive, like bitey, spicy oak, but like old, dusty furniture oak. You know, it's not super memorable. Doesn't really have a whole lot of flavor. I poured a small sample or small glass of this for a friend of mine, um, because we were talking about high proof things and how they're usually flavor bombs, and I brought this up as a counterpoint because this is the least flavorful cask proof whiskey I have ever had. It's genuinely just kind of boring. And that is the biggest problem a whiskey can have, in my personal opinion. I've had really exceptional whiskeys. I've had whiskeys that had such strong off notes, just wet cardboardy, wet dog funk that you get from cutting too deep into the tails. Um, I've had whiskey that was just too heavy on oak presence. And the ones that I enjoy the least, strangely, are the ones that are boring. And this whiskey is boring. It seems mean to say, but it's the truth. There's no replacement for the flavor compounds, and you would think that a cask proof whiskey such as this would have lots of flavors. And for 10 years old, it's amazingly light on like barrel, like like big barrel flavors. It's just kind of dusty old furniture, a little bit of varnish, a little bit of caramel, tiny bit of baking spices, and it doesn't make an impact. And I find that to be a sort of interesting problem because again, this is a 10-year-old bourbon. 10 years old. And I've had a couple of 10-year-old bourbons and older bourbons. Oops, sorry. 10-year and older bourbons, and they all have like big oak profiles and big flavors that come from being in a barrel that long, and this just sort of falls flat, and it's weird. um and maybe my palate is blown out still from the Lost Lantern stream that we did, but I don't think so, because I can taste other things just fine. This is just boring. So my three questions, because instead of giving things numeric scores, I ask and answer three questions. Uh, First question: do I like it? Meh, I don't dislike it, but it's boring, and that's just not very interesting to me, which is why there is so little of this bottle missing, despite having had it for a little while. Question two: do I think it's a good value? No, just not really. No, it's like a $65 bottle of bourbon. I want more flavor than that. This just doesn't do it for me. I'm sorry. And question number three: do I recommend it? Honestly, no. But also, if you are new to bourbon and you want to try something that is cask strength 10 years old, this is the least aggressive way of trying it because, I mean, price wise, it's not great, but it's a 10-year-old bourbon and it's got that old oak notes. It's just that those are the only notes. There's nothing else going on in it. Um, I will say that I see why they picked this barrel. I get it because it is remarkably easy drinking for being 123.3 proof, but that doesn't make up for the fact that it's just boring. And I do genuinely wish that there was a little more transparency about who's picking these because, like, I don't think that was picked by whiskey enthusiasts. I genuinely don't. And like I understand that like, oh, they wanna like broad approachability for their barrel picks. And like I get that. That's a laudable goal. The problem is you're going into this going, okay, who's going to buy a bottle of bourbon this expensive? Who's going to buy a bottle of cask strength bourbon? Who's going to buy a bottle of 10-year-old cask strength bourbon? That's going to be whiskey enthusiasts. That's not going to be, a random guy off the street who's looking to buy a fifth of whiskey. That's going to be somebody who's going in looking for something interesting and different. And I think this fails to deliver on that. I'll stop complaining about this now, and I will move on to what I'm going to be reviewing on Friday. So I have an interesting one. Normally, I spin the wheel. We find out together what I'm reviewing next. But I already know what I'm reviewing next because I have a timely review. I haven't double checked that it's okay, but I'm just going to say you sent me a media sample. You're going to get the media, which is a review. Um, and I can already tell you I'm going to like it a heck of a lot better than this. And that is, I should have put it closer to myself. Black Frost Distilling American Single Malt Whiskey, which drops on Friday. That's right. This isn't actually available yet, but it will be on Black Friday. And I'm going to tell you Friday at about noon exactly what I think about it. And spoiler alert, I'm going to probably enjoy it more than you expect. But again, this was sent to me by them. We're going to have Jace on the show on the Single Malt Frontier. And, oh, come on. Come on, camera, focus. Come on. It's not, that trick isn't going to work today. We're going to have him on the show, and we're going to talk about some of the cool things that they're doing that's a little bit different from other American single malts, and how they're putting their own unique thumbprint on American single malt with their own release. It's extremely cool. I can't wait to talk to them about it. I can't wait to tell you what I think about this stuff. And I think that covers everything that I needed to talk about. So, without further ado, stay happy, stay geeks, slange.